Tonight's tactical enhancement is gin and tonic, and that's a buckle gun. Tonight we're playing Team Yankee. 50 points because a fast game's a good game. This is the table and we're doing an encounter. So that means we've got 40% of stuff from reserve out of each force, and we start on the long edges, and the attacker has chosen the side with all the buildings, unsurprisingly. He's put an objective all the way over there in that corner in the trees, and one all the way over here in this corner in a very defensible position, fortunately. In order, he's got to capture one of those, and we as the defenders still have to capture objectives because that's what defending is all about, apparently. We got one here. The captain's gone to left his a tent in the enemy's area, and over here next to the Sentosa electric train and next to the extremely large Lamborghini and the buckle guns, there is another of these things which is in the only space between buildings, really, because I don't really want to assault a building if I can avoid it. So that's the mission, that's the encounter, and it's not timed, so as soon as you jump on an objective and hold it under the rules, you've won, so it doesn't have to go like for a minimum 6 turns or anything. Now Andrew was very happy to have won the roll-off. Andrew, talk us through what you've brought.
Ah, right, okay. So we have a VTR 60 battalion.
Quality stuff.
So 2 small companies of VTR 60 infantry, so that's one, and that is another one.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have company of 4 Shilkers.
Yep.
Company of 3 T-64s.
Oh, yes.
Battery of Carnations. And that's all one formation.
Right.
And then...
That's right, because Shilkers are integral.
Yes, and the artillery and the tanks.
Alright, okay.
My black box is a platoon of BMP-2 infantry.
Oh, I bet they feel special hanging out with these lads.
Yeah, the elite. Yeah, we've got better vehicles.
So is that infantry in them?
Yes, I put infantry in them this time.
Whoa.
So I've actually got 3 infantry companies.
How would you feel if you're not just a conscript in the Russian army in the Cold War, but you're a conscript in the Russian army in a vehicle that doesn't even have tracks?
Not even a real tank.
Yeah, you might have an opinion about that.
And that's it. That's 49 points. I couldn't find a use for the last point, so if I lose, it's because you guys have 50 points.
Right. Oh, okay. Lovely. Okay. Well, I'm taking the US Marines, so I'll be saying "hut" rather a lot. You don't get as much stuff, but you still get a fair bit as it turns out, because I've taken all thin skins. I didn't bring any tanks. So I got 2 maxed out platoons of infantry. They've traded in some of their SAW teams for M60s. They've got a couple of SMOR. They've got a mortar. They've got a couple of Dragon anti-tank, which is going to have fun against that shit. They've got the transports, because the transports are just so cool. They really need to have missions where you use those things to take a beach or some shit. That'll be fun.
Yeah, no, we should do it.
Let me see. I've got the Labs. That's right. Squadron of them. They give me recce, actually. That's just, potentially useful. And then we get the Lav AA, which I painted in the wrong brown, and some years later still haven't got off my ass to repaint. And the Marines, I brought a couple of gunships for support. We've got some tow missile launchers over there. The gunships have got the upgraded tow. That's it. So we will deploy shortly, then we'll see who gets first turn, and we will get stuck into it. And hopefully we'll get through the whole game, because it's a Friday night. And of turn 1, and the Americans got the roll off, and we've moved a big block of infantry into the trees. Apologies for them still not being painted. This is the objective here, but he's not going anywhere near that objective for a while, so we figure we can give it a couple of turns to be in a more aggressive stance. They're moving up anyway in their turn. There's some more Ruskies over there, and we were very tempted to send the choppers in to hose the fuckers at point blank range. But then we thought there'd be an awful lot of dice thrown back at us, and I hadn't even taken into account those BMP-3s have an anti-helicopter gun on them. So we're not getting any reserves for a while, but we've got just enough to hold this side over here. We've got a weight of material over here. And I decided to put these guys over the embankment here, so they can't really be hit from the other side, except by stuff that's up in that building up there. And oh, good Lord, I'll just tell you what they're doing in the Ruski turn in a moment. But I thought, coming up here, they're just going to get the hell shot out of them for no good reason. So I'm going to move them over here. We've got some freedom of movement. Hedge my bets against where the reserves come on, see what I can do. End of Ruski turn 1. Remembering it's mobile battle, so nobody could dig in. It's also why the choppers couldn't shoot from a distance. The infantry there on the ground there, because we can't take the lid off the actual building, but they've shifted from the back of the buildings to the front of the building so they can see out and start putting some rounds down. It's going to be a problem for those choppers in a minute. Meanwhile, these guys, the MP3s, have moved up closer, so presumably they can move out next turn behind that embankment and start trying to hose these guys. Some infantry moved up into the petrol station, which I thought, isn't a petrol station a great place to seek cover in the middle of a war full of heat rounds?
Yeah, there's no petrol in there.
We don't have any special rules for it, but that could be funny one day. This lot are all still hiding in the forest. Now, here's the trees for the forest. We had to take the trees out of the forest in order to hide the men in them.
Yeah, half the Russian army's in there.
Yeah, if you go down to the woods today, we don't know what they're doing. There's a bear in there.
Yeah, have you got a phosphorus attack?
No, I didn't bring any artillery. Anyway, so that's it. There was no shooting. Because basically, anyone who goes charging out willy-nilly is going to get slaughtered in this mission. So we've all got to set the conditions first before we go and do crazy things. On that note, we'll go into turn 2 for the Americans. 50-point games make for quick games, especially when you have 20 points off the table. We move these infantry into the trees. That's all we could really do. So if I expose them now, they're fucked. They're too far away to launch a charge. I'll need them in the trees, because if this lot comes out and starts shooting, then I'm going to need to have the concealment. Ooh, what else? This guy finally figured out which gear to get in to get over a train line, and the rest of them hooned up here. We're hiding behind the trees from that lot. We decided not to do anything with the choppers and just hope he doesn't roll 6s, because they don't really have any job to do. We went looking for somewhere we could be useful with them, but if we go anywhere over here, we get eaten alive by sugars. If we go up close over there, we get hosed down by AKs, and that's before we worry about those pricks over there who are just conveniently out of range, I'm assuming. You measured that?
What's that?
Those guys. They're out of 48 of those guys?
Oh, of course.
Righto, so that's it. So there's no action this turn. We're just getting ready to have action in the next turn or two. And now we'll go over to the Ruskies and see what they do with this walloping great big shit show over here. End of Ruski turn 2, and they did even less than last turn. This time, to avoid being assaulted by these guys all went and shuffled further into the petrol station, because that's an excellent place to be when there's an assault going on. And there's one guy here he's very easy to get hold of. We can go and kill him, I suppose. So he's only going to give defensive fire, provided I stay 6 inches away from that.
He's supposed to be back there.
Oh, he's supposed to be back there. Yeah, that might get moved yet. And they fired their 3 long range, what are they called? The missile launchers?
Spigots.
Spigots, that's right. The choppers, and they missed. And yes, everyone's been shuffling up in here in the forest to get their optimal position to do something at some point. But we're going into turn 3, because basically at this point, anyone who charges out prematurely is fucked. So we're going turn 3. Emilio's on my team. Yahtzee King, Hocker Survivor, a 6 man. Hey, it's a 6. We get a reserve. That's good. We're going to need it. Actually, roll a dice. See where it comes in.
What do you want? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6?
1, 2 is at that end.
Yeah.
3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. 6 is coming over here.
Hey!
Oh, that's going to
It's all
annoy
right,
Andrew
mate.
a little bit.
Sorry, Andrew.
No, you're not.
Alright, turn 3 for the Americans. Reserves came in right where we need them. These 2 clown cars here are full of another load of pretty much all that infantry all over again. So we move those infantry up to the edge of the woods where we can shoot out. That means, of course, everyone else can shoot back. That's not so good. But we've got all these guys coming up in front. So this platoon is going to end up being a bit ablative. But for Andrew to hit him, he's got to make himself a target. So it puts the pressure on. So I'm starting to get a critical mass here I can do something with. These guys fired fully automatic grenade launchers into that building. Whacked a couple. Immediately unloaded with those guys. Killed a few more. And even the M60s, which only had a rate of fire 2 per team, managed to bump off 1 guy. So that platoon copped it. It's thoroughly pinned, and it's had what? How many casualties? 3. 3 all up. Yeah, it must be that 1 per platoon, which isn't bad. The choppers stay hidden for obvious reasons, and that's it. We'll check in after the Ruskies get their turn 3, and actually roll a reserves dice first. Let's see what happens. Oh, motherfucker, he got 1 too. Look at that thieving bastard. I thought I was special. Now there's going to be a tank or some shit. Alright.
There's definitely tanks coming on. I'm getting a little bit nervous now.
On that note, we will check in at the end of turn 3 for the Ruskies. End of Ruski turn 3, and they've had mostly a good turn. The reserves came in at the wrong place, all the way back there. But he just moved them really fucking quickly, and they hid back here. Far as away from those choppers as they can get. Then these shitty things came along and started hosing at them. And a couple of these got line of sight and hit them. And a spigot team from this mob here hit them. And a spigot team from that mob there in the corner fired out the window and hit that. Well, blew up one and annoyed the other one. Then 2 of the Shilka came out, hosed, and I rolled shit. Then these 2 things here, BTR 60s, fired at them, and I rolled shit again. I rolled maybe 8 or 9 attempted saves, and I failed 5 of them. That was bad. That's gutted that platoon quite badly. So they're pinned. That unit is pinned. That unit's not there anymore. Over to turn 4. Meteor, roll a dice. Let me see if we've got any reserves coming. Actually, you get 2 dice. Roll it again.
Oh.
Hey, okay, we get our last thing coming on. Oh, roll it again. Let's see where it turns up.
Thank God for that. Alright.
Yeah, along the back line somewhere. That's not too bad. We'll see what we can do with it. Alright, on that note, we'll get stuck in turn 4 for the Yanks.
Yeah, that's cool.
So
Okay.
that's what you worried about the whole time.
So this turn, our dice were on strike. I can't complain because the previous turns were actually pretty good. But my infantry did not unpin, even with the CO there. So we tried to dig him in instead. That didn't work. This didn't unpin. We fired our s'mores, they missed. We fired our M60s at those guys, it did nothing. I moved these blokes in as reserves. Dumped 16, actually 12 dice, because one of them was out of range, at those guys. Killed nothing. These guys did their movement order, which was good, but only one of them managed to move because of the terrain, and then it shot and did nothing. And the choppers fired at the tanks while they're in the open, the best shot they'll ever have, needing a 3 to hit, so of course only one of them did, just. Fortunately though, the one good dice roll of the game is we blew up one of those tanks, and as Andrew was pointing out, no matter what he did, there's no way he was getting him out of shot, out of line of sight and range of those guys on the first turn. But he will have a go next turn, no doubt. So that was it. The rest of the infantry piled out into here, but it's not for a lack of trying. Basically nothing fucking happened. What I should have been doing was moving up the first platoon, dumping a whole lot of 66s and so on into those guys, freeing the way, or otherwise smacking them with
How many
smalls or
points
whatever.
does that tank? Is it
They're about 70.
4
5,
points? And how many points are these
13
guys?
points for 3.
13 points for 3. So that's
3,
4 and a third or some shit.
And these guys? How much do they cost you?
4
Chris?
points.
That 4 points for all 4.
There you go. So you took my 4 out for your 4.
Yeah, I'm glad they did.
Yeah, these are glass cannon, I suppose. They're a lot of fun, those. Anyway, great in attack defense games because they do recce. Anyway, I think we better get into turn 4 for the Ruskies and see if your reserves turn up.
Oh, yes, 2 dice.
Cool. There we go.
Only gets 1. I think it's the only thing that's left, isn't it?
I've got artillery and an observer.
I think the observer's presumably going to come on. In fact, he probably should have been on the whole time. He's an independent team. And I suppose unless you needed him to make up your 20 points.
I needed the point.
Alright, well, fuck it, who cares? Bring on the arty, I suppose.
Alright, 1 to 2, 3 to 4, 5 to 6.
Yeah.
You roll 5 or 6.
Oh, they turn up in the back line, anywhere you like. On that note, we'll check in at the end of Ruski turn 4.
Goes the wrong way.
Russian turn
It's going the
4.
wrong way, I think. Yeah,
There's the artillery, it turned up, couldn't do much else. The next turn it's going to try and roll in, probably the 6s. He brought up the rest of his shulkers somehow without bogging. And this time they hosed into here. Plus these guys fired by still, and they did take a couple of kills out, but nowhere near as much as the carnage they did last turn. Tanks have shuffled up here, trying to get around the flank. Whew, what else? Well, they fired a whole bunch of stuff at these guys, killed 2, bailed 1, that was annoying. They fired the spigots there at the choppers. Because the chopper had fired last turn, they were automatically going to hit 1, so of course he hit 2. And wasted 1. Which I suppose for the amount of shots they yeah, maybe. So the Ruskies are doing alright, but they've got themselves a problem. They're afraid to attack the Americans in the open, because we'll probably do to them what they've been doing to me while I've been in range in the open. But I got a bit of a drama in that now that my platoon's been heavily walloped, how the hell do I deal with this enormous bundle of meat bag and cheap vehicles over here? It's
90% of my army I'm throwing at you.
yeah, 90% of his army is over here, and I do not have 90% of my army here. I've got some very banged up platoons. Ah, dearie me. So we're going to work out what to do in a minute.
Reserves can come on. You got a chance of that.
I don't know any more reserves.
That's it.
That's it, is it?
They're all on.
Everything's on the table now from
Yep.
both sides.
That's right, and of course they've all piled in over here, so it's a bit of a worry. We're going to have to think about what to do about that, and then we'll check in at the end of turn 5 for the Yanks. Alright, end of turn 5 for the Americans. That guy's mate failed to did get in and then ran away. So that was unfortunate, he's chuffed off. This guy did not get back in. Fortunately, the platoon did not run away in this case. The Marines that so gloriously failed to do anything useful last turn woke up and started doing some things. So they're unpinned. We moved them up and hosed the shulkers. And then we threw some small shots into them. We killed 2 outright. We double bailed the other ones, but they decided to stick around anyway. And we poured an awful lot of shot from M60s and things into the infantry in this building. We even fired some dragons, did nothing. And we had 1 operational vehicle here that fired on that building. And we got that platoon down to the last 3 stands. They lose 1 more and they're not in good spirits. It's taken a lot of work, as you might imagine. We did pump some other shots over here. They didn't do anything useful. One of them is still stuck, and we have the chopper not moving so that he's a 6 to hit again. So we didn't have any viable targets, but nothing that's worth a missile, frankly. And that's it. I really wanted to push forward, but the best I could do was start trying to work on those shulkers, because if I don't get rid of them, I've got 0 prospects of making a push. And on that note, over to the Ruskies, turn 5. Okay, end of turn 5 Ruskies, and they fired these guys, and these guys, all at my infantry, and didn't kill any. And they fired 2 spigots at these guys and double barreled one, and that's about it. And then the tanks turned up and got killed. One transport.
It's the only thing I killed for the whole time.
Yeah, so a bit of rubber band effect.
Yeah,
I have to say that's not bad at all. And the really good news is the Shulkers didn't get back in, and then the platoon failed its morale test, so the Shulkers are actually gone.
Yeah, and the other good news over here, Chris.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
I kept my chopper.
Oh yeah, and they fired at the chopper, but because we had decided not to shoot it, he rolled a bunch of 5s and they all missed. Yeah, so I got lucky, although I mean, after the last 2 turns with the clusterfuck, I figure a bit of rubber band effect's not a bad thing. And we will now go into turn 6 for the Americans and see if we can fucking dislodge something, because we've been sitting here banging each other's heads together for a while, and we need to get some dynamism. Alright, end of turn 6 for the Yanks, I think it was. Oh, that fucking idiot still didn't unbog himself. He still can't figure out how to drive around a tree. One of my labs decided to fuck off because the other one's destroyed. They're not doing good service today.
These guys got back in.
These guys, yeah, they got back in and
They sprayed away.
hosed that building, didn't kill anything. They put a hell of a lot of dice in there. Then we fired a whole lot of stuff at the MP3s, and we rolled a flurry of ones. Ones. All sorts of dice went over there and didn't do a damn thing. Then we fired a whole flurry of dice at these guys, including my dragon teams, because I was so sick of it, and didn't kill a damn thing. That's like 2 M60s, a couple of dragon teams. We fired some infantry law at those, because they're clearer targets, and I think we got maybe 1.
Over 30 dice went into that building, and
Not a single kill. We even fired the fucking chopper.
Out of sheer desperation.
Because all we need to do is kill 1, and they're not in good spirits, and they might fuck off.
Yeah.
Or at least they count as buggered for points for the game. And still nothing.
Chance and nothing.
We actually hit them, but no, we just more 1s. So it's been most vexing. It's not for lack of trying. We're pushing the attack against 90% of the Russian army.
We're doing what the game objective told us to do.
Yeah. Oh, the Marines are gone. That's the objective. We're going for it.
Yeah, every single Marine.
Climbing over our fucking corpses, and yeah. What can I say? It's not with us today. So unless Andrew's army spectacularly self-combusts next turn, I'm going to have rather a large casualty pile by the end of it. On that note, oh my God almighty, over to the Ruskies. End of Ruski turn 6, and there's been a diplomatic solution, partly because it's late and Andrew has to head off, and partly because everyone's sick of throwing flying fuck tons of dice at each other and not making a difference. Sometimes in this game, that's what happens. You have a couple of turns of bad dice and you just can't dislodge yourself from the situation that creates. And because we decided to keep attacking, that meant we had guys in the open for this lot to shoot at. If we just dug in and made you come to us, you'd have been there all day and we would have been hitting
But again,
things.
that wasn't the game objective.
No, the game objective was to push. I'm going to claim a moral victory because we actually tried to attack. We actually tried to take an objective.
They're attacking down the road, look.
They can't take objectives. Those are
But they're
transports.
still attacking, Chris.
Those are transports.
No, but they're still
And they're not attacking. They're staying as
How
far away as
can
they
move?
possibly can.
They could have gone straight down that road.
Well, they could have driven down here and going, look, we've got it for you, boss. Send something that actually counts according to the rules.
This has actually happened before.
No, I know you did that once. Once. Every fucking game, Andrew defends. And normally I attack because I enjoy attacking, but Emilio likes to defend, so we thought we'd do a defense versus
No,
defense.
that's not tonight. I was all in for the
What?
attack.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
So we did the mission selected, do you want to attack, defend, or maneuver? He says, no, we'll defend.
But you know why? Because you've got all soft troops. I mean, it's all soft. No, it's all soft vehicles.
Well, true, but if we were doing the attack and they were doing the defend, we would have all of our stuff on the table and they would have 40% in reserve. So
It's still doable.
yeah, so a totally different mission type, all that sort of thing. I find the missions actually really balanced in this game. Anywho, excuses aside, you've lost a platoon, we've lost a platoon. Nobody's got their objective. It's a lose-lose, equal platoons destroyed. This is about as close to a tie as you can get. Admittedly, we've lost a lot more American lives, but that's it. We're combat effective, but just for defence, because you're going to have a fucker hard time cracking that with what you've got on the table.
The problem is the terrain. We normally play with a lot more terrain, and we have terrain that's within 12 inches of each other.
You can hop and hop and hop.
We can
hop.
cover. Whereas in this game, like, you stick your head out.
There's death zones.
Yeah, I mean, I usually put a lot of terrain on, but it gets to be a bit same, so I thought I'd do something different with more space. And I sent a photo through earlier. If I'd taken tanks in this, like if I'd done like a reconnaissance army, which has one platoon of 3 tanks of the up armoured ones, and then a platoon of infantry, a platoon of recce, a couple other odds and ends, which is a good list type to take for the Americans in a game this small, because you still get your Swiss Army knife. That would have been good, but as it was, because I went heavy on the Marines, there were some things I didn't have. Like I didn't have artillery, so I didn't have smoke.
Artillery would have been awesome in this game. It would have forced the
That would
English
have
to
changed
move.
the whole dynamic of the game.
You would have had to
And
move.
the sort of army you get on those tanks will just wade through so much stuff.
Yeah.
But, you know, so we got a tie. What have we learned?
Well, these 50-point games are still heaps of fun.
Yeah, I like them.
Definitely my favourite way to play Team Yankee. Because, we got through 6 turns in like 3 hours. Or not even that.
No, we got off for a late start because we had a couple of family things we had to attend to. We could have done 8 turns if we'd started a little bit earlier. Or had less family things to worry about. So I think that's the way to do it, because as much as I love a big bash-up game of Team Yankee, these 50-point ones really make you make some decisions.
I think they're much more tense than the big games.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
you've got so much riding on, like
40% off the table and not getting reserves on when you want them, and then not getting them where you want them to go when they come
that
on.
really screwed my tank.
That screws up. Yeah, it didn't work for you.
Well, one of the few things that went right is that dead guy, and in a bigger game it wouldn't have mattered. I mean, sure, we'd had more stuff shooting at each other, but it becomes just an amalgamation of dice in a smaller game. One bad turn can have a much bigger impact on what happens.
And not much actually happened over this flank. It was we all agreed this was the you're going to die zone.
Yep.
And so unless you invested a lot more over here and do the charge,
I toyed with the
Wasn't
idea
gonna
of
happen.
putting all the infantry in the BMP 2s, charging them over there, and using my artillery for smoke. But then I remembered I would put 40% in reserve.
and the plan
So I
changed.
I didn't have the artillery to do it.
Yeah, you're forced to change the plan.
Otherwise, that
Yep.
would have been
That would have been
idea.
great to come over this side when everything was heavily invested over here.
Yep.
And I thought when the tanks came on, that would have been the time to bring the tanks through here with these troops and go all in.
Nah, that's all.
So-
The other stuff there, they would have.
Yeah, they would have fun against the tanks, but I would have had to bum rush something over here
Yeah, over there.
to stop it, and that actually might have won you the game, or I might have had enough light vehicles shooting
you
them
would
up.
have actually had a greater chance to win the game if you did the rush.
Yep.
But I also find these choppers weren't as good as I thought they
No,
would
but
be.
they deny area.
Yep.
That's what they did.
Yeah.
They denied all that part of the table because my AA is only 32-inch range.
Which gave Chris options to do the charge.
Yep.
Just that I don't think Chris counted on you concentrating your forces so much.
Well, as soon as that second platoon showed up, no, that was it. It was like everything after this objective.
Yeah, and that second platoon just rolled up here. If it had rolled in over there, I probably would have just barreled headlong toward those guys and accepted the casualties when you shot the vehicle.
Okay.
Pretty insane thing to
So it could
do.
have worked
but-
our way too. But again, it still would have been a death zone.
Yes.
Yeah, it would have been a death zone, but running forward on the ground takes ages, and you would have redeployed so much of your army in that space of time.
Exactly, yeah.
So it would have been no guts, no glory. Charge up the
You could
middle,
have got lucky.
take the buildings.
You could have overwhelmed him and
I think what we need in these small games is mortars. If we can get access to cheap mortars, that would be a big
I could have taken mortars as a black box, but I thought that was just not in character. So I didn't take any black box units in this game.
Wow.
Oh, you can, but I thought they're Marines, and Marines love to work with Cobra gunships. That's why I painted them grey instead of green. That's why my A10s tend to be grey anyway. But that was a deliberate choice to paint on the choppers grey, because then they go with the Marines.
Okay.
Whereas Airborne and the Army paint their choppers and their Hueys and everything in green.
The other thing is,
So
these
it's
guys,
playing for character.
massive attack dice,
Yeah.
but they're so soft and a good target take it early because they would have done the job of emptying that building if
Yeah.
they stuck around. And the other thing, I probably wouldn't have deployed them so far in.
Yeah, that was
early in the game.
actually
I
probably a
would
bit
have held them
unnecessary.
back and still got range
Yeah.
to spray that building and force you up.
Yeah.
That was it. So that was, I think that was
See,
actually.
the only reason I went up
tactical
there was
mistake.
I was hoping to draw out some of your stuff.
But they're too soft.
And if I
Chris.
drew it out,
They're too soft.
then we
And you
could.
You saw they got wiped out.
Those things are nasty though.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Well, they're basically a
That's
VADS. Yeah, they're the VADS gun plus missile system, but no armor.
Yeah.
Well, fuck
Yeah.
all armor.
Yeah.
They look cool though. I just like the fact that they
No,
exist.
they're fantastic.
And again,
And
if you
this
don't,
is
if you don't have anything, if you've got a lot of stuff, if you would have combined the attack with all, let's say these came on in reserve, and then you did the wave, you would have taken out 4, but you still would have had 4 viable guns
Yeah,
going
look-
in with your troops.
It would have done a better job to draw them out if I'd left them back here, like you said, because then in order to get line of sight to them, you would have had to expose yourself, and I could have started hocking dragons
Yeah.
at them.
Yeah.
But no, I fucked that up. A couple of things I didn't do particularly
So
well.
they got sacrificed early. We
Yeah,
should
but
have.
it's only 4 points.
Yeah, but what they were capable of doing
Oh yeah, no, I wasn't allowed.
could have changed.
Great, yeah.
Could have changed things in that area.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason I don't have more labs is because I've got too much bloody stuff and haven't painted it all as it is. In fact, I haven't even assembled all the Russian gear. But I've got too many projects. Look, it was an interesting game. We played one game a little while ago, me and Emilio, and I'm umming and ahhing about whether to turn it into a video because we made a few big mistakes. But this was a good reminder of what works and what doesn't. And it was fun to take the Marines for a change instead of taking the usual combo of things that you just know just work really well for the Americans. Marines are they're awesome, but at the end of the day they're infantry and they will die.
Yeah. I also know the game that we played last time, me with the Brits, I had improved my game with the Brits.
Yep.
And if I had more,
Yeah,
I forgot to take 2 extra tanks. That's the mistake
Yeah.
I made in the last game.
I'll definitely give you another go.
Yeah. So
It's
I
fun
have
fighting
improved
against the
game
Brits.
play with the Brits. Yeah.
Well, on that note, there's a few things we could say about this, but I think it's pumpkin o'clock. Thanks for watching. Feel free to hit like, subscribe, send a comment. It all helps the algorithm. Tell your friends. But for now, it's time to call it a night.